Well, welcome to Two Drunk Planners. I'm Felicity.
And I'm Amanda.
And we look forward to having you join us every week where we catch up
Right here on the couch.
Right here on the couch.
We talk finance. We dispel a few of those really weird things that come up on Facebook and socials. Let's talk about what gets our goat.
Mix it with a good cocktail.
Ooh, that's the best bit.
That's
How would
the
we
best
be two
part
drunk
of it.
planners if we didn't do that?
So thanks again for joining us, and remember there's no substitute for good advice. So make sure you hop online and find an advisor when you need one. But in the meantime, enjoy this week's episode.
We're back.
We are.
That was very high pitched.
That's just because you're excited about the drink.
Probably is actually.
And because we've got a really good topic to talk about today.
We do. We do.
Yes.
But we need a drink to be able to work our way through it, I think.
I think so.
So what were the ingredients?
So we have white, I don't even know how to say this, cacao?
Cacao.
Cacao.
Well, that says white cocoa, but I think you need white creme de cacao,
Well,
which
after it says creme de cacao. So
cacao blanc.
I got a little confused.
We haven't even had a drink yet.
It's basically a white
White stuff.
liqueur. We've got gin.
We do.
We have cream.
And a spot of nutmeg. All right, so let's give this a crack for those following along at home. An ounce
Do we know
of
what it
gin.
is, though?
No, do tell. Do tell.
Well, a lot of people have this with brandy.
Okay.
Traditionally, it's a gin drink.
So brandy pops into my head, the brandy Alexander.
That is it.
Ah, with gin.
With gin.
So was it originally brandy or originally gin?
Originally gin.
Who knew?
Yep. It's.
All right, let's see if
I'm impressed that you're not free pouring.
I can. You know I can. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. All right, gin in.
Excellent. Plenty of the white chocolate,
Plenty of
however we
this.
pronounce it, stuff.
Cacao blanc. There we go. Bit of that.
Bit of that. I'll put that over here. I might put the lid on that one just in case we get excited and knock it over.
It's highly likely. So what are we going to talk about while we're having the drink?
Well, I had a fantastic question come across my desk through the form of a Facebook question
Yes.
about HEX debt.
Okay, I've had a couple of those from clients lately.
Well, it's a big thing at the moment.
Well, before June 1, yeah. There's opportunities before June 1.
Correct. So it's one of those things I thought was quite topical. There was a little bit of confusion I saw on Facebook even about the difference between HELP debt and HEX debt. So I thought we'd clear up straight away that they're both exactly the same thing.
Well, HELP has replaced HEX as far as I
Yes.
understand.
Yeah. So, but they're used
Interchangeably. Yep.
Oh, look at that. Great minds think alike.
Ching.
Oh,
Shall I shake?
sorry.
A little bit of nutmeg on the top. Sprinkle, sprinkle. Well, that doesn't look very even, but hey, cheers.
That's okay. Cheers to HEX debt.
And a gin Alexander.
Beautiful.
Oh, that goes down a bit easy, doesn't
I
it?
have to say.
All right. So the question you had
That one's
or stumbled about HEX debt, what was the question?
So the question I have is, I know lots of people are asking about HEX debts, HELP debts, but I feel pretty helpless thinking about it, big crying face.
Okay.
So, because debt can make you feel...
And for those who don't understand what we're talking about, basically it's a student loan.
Yes.
It's to do your higher education without having to pay for it upfront.
Yep. And so the government essentially pays for it, and every time you do a subject, it goes up.
Yep.
Not all subjects are the same, depends on what course.
Masters.
Yep.
The other thing is, though, I think good to understand a little bit more about it. You don't have to start paying this debt off until you earn a certain amount of money.
Correct.
And what they do is automatically then take 1% of your salary to pay it.
Yep.
So if you're on $100,000 a year, $1,000 a year will go towards your HEX debt. So
$20,000 a year and don't make any.
yeah, it's got to be over 50,000 from memory.
I think it is 50,000 now. It's changing again though shortly.
But I think what's probably triggered this is that the 1st of June every year, is they reset.
Correct.
So there's
that's the question.
there's no interest on HEX debts, but they increase every year with CPI.
Which is kind of like interest.
Kind of like.
In actual fact, sometimes the interest is lower than CPI, which is what this person said. I wouldn't have even got a HEX debt if I'd known that I wouldn't be able to get a loan because of it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel fair. We were all told that the loan gets paid off slowly when we can afford it, but with indexing, it increases faster than it can be paid off. It's maybe questionable, but we'll come to that. My loan is $22,000. Like you say, it goes up every single year in line with CPI. Usually hasn't been a problem because CPI usually comes in at 2 to 3%.
Yep.
But like you say, if you're only paying 1% of your wage,
it could well be increasing it 2 or 3 times what you're
Correct.
actually paying off.
And compounding.
Yes.
And now we're talking about having inflation of 7%.
Well, the CPI from June 1 will be 7.1, so 100,000 HEX debt goes up $7,100.
Correct, and yet you're only paying $1,000 off it. So all of a sudden you get that compounding thing that we love so much when it comes to investing.
Interest, yeah,
Not
earning interest, yeah.
so much when it comes
to debt.
So I thought we'll have a little look through this because firstly, I don't know about you, but I have never yet had a client get their loan turned down because of a HEX debt.
Well, I actually rang a broker to say, how does this work? Do you ask about HEX debt? Because some of the comments are quite varying. You know, a lot of people saying, it's never been a problem for me, had HEX debt all my life, I've had 2 or 3 mortgages, no problem at all. Others going, actually, I got turned down, it's really awful. So what the bank looks at with anything is the debt to income ratio.
So serviceability.
So it comes down to, did you disclose it for starters?
Yep.
I mean, sometimes people forget they've got it entirely.
Yes, we have seen a few of those.
And, you know, no bad intentions. It's just, it's not a debt you do usually stress about.
Yep.
It's a background thing and it takes...
Wages, maybe?
Yeah, so it takes, you know, last place in your things to worry about,
Yep.
debts. So, yeah, interesting to now go, ouch, it's going to make a big impact. And should I pay off some more of that versus paying off the house?
Yeah. Well, at the moment, the house might not be costing you 7.1%. And the other interesting thing is it also raises for people who are studying that question of, should I get the debt in the first place? Like if I've got the money to pay. So I had this conversation with a client a couple of weeks ago. She has the money to pay it. Previously, we've been putting it off the home loan because, yeah, we wanted to try and get rid of that as much as we could, thinking that interest rates were going to go up. But she's just gone into a new job where her job is now directly related to the study that she's doing. So now it's tax deductible.
Brilliant.
To actually pay for the fee.
Yeah.
And doesn't go to debt. So now we're getting kind of the benefit of it's not going to get indexed, and she's on top marginal tax rate, so we're getting almost half of it back from a tax point of view. So it makes a lot of sense for her to pay it up front and never have the debt in the first place.
And you can even do a split. For those who don't have the full amount, you can pay a deposit or something towards it so that the debt is lower, even if you don't have a lot of the money up front.
Yeah.
So
shouldn't really stop you getting a loan if your serviceability is fine, just like any other debt. If you've got spare money at the moment, if you want to make a payment, probably be doing that before it indexes.
Yeah. So you got till June 1, everybody.
Yep. Unlike a normal loan that just goes up every single month, this one gets to one day of the year and then the whole lot goes on it at that point. So if you're going to make a payment, do it before then than after. Otherwise,
yep. Because the lower amount will then be indexed, not what the full amount. So,
and really, it comes down to a cost of capital. So I don't know about you. We always tell people to pay off their highest non-tax deductible debt first.
Yep.
In this case, this is probably, except for credit cards,
it's a high interest rate, CPI rate now. Yeah.
This year is definitely going to be one of the higher rates. So were there any other questions in there that you saw where you went, oh, well, there was one here that went, what the fuck?
Are we allowed to say that? Is this a family show?
adults.
Somebody
here.
else's words, aren't they? So it's
They
okay.
are. We are adults.
We are indeed.
So it's, what the fuck? Does HEX go up?
Wow. That's another thing. Like, so when you do take this debt out originally, I've seen there's a lot of confusion. If I'd known, I wouldn't have. Another one's here, she's talking about guilt over accumulating HEX debt when deciding on a career change. By the time I'll graduate, I'll be 38 with 50,000 in debt. I feel guilty for having more debt for my family. We don't have a house and want our second baby. What should I consider? Am I selfish? So there's lots of personal things to consider. And I think if we go back to that financial literacy, understand what you're signing up for in the first place.
Yeah.
Not, I didn't know. You signed. It doesn't matter. If you drive on the roads in Australia, it doesn't matter what state you're in. You can't say, I'm not from here. I didn't know.
Yeah.
The laws apply, and they do to this debt as well. We can't plead ignorance when we've signed up for debt.
Yeah. So there's that. It's an interesting question on that one because completely unrelated just to finance, although it does come back to the debt in the end. So I think a lot of people, particularly when you come out of school, go into uni because you think you're meant to go into uni. And again, there should be something in there, a mindset that just goes, shit, that
Bless your
doesn't
cotton
actually just go like that. But unless you actually want to make a career out of it, you are actually just accumulating debt. So if it's something that doesn't interest you.
Like you think you need to do a BA when you go out of school that
Yes.
will never really do much for your life.
Correct.
Give you a few years of
I've got
playtime.
a
A couple of years of playtime after school.
Yeah.
I just need to go to university for the fun because I don't want to really work yet.
I can actually tell you, I have a Bachelor of Arts in Japanese and I've never spoken Japanese again since the day I went on holidays and, I could still do
Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa, watashi no namae wa. But apart from that,
Felicity-san.
I really haven't used it. So again with this, I feel guilty. I'm going to come out with a $50,000 debt.
And it's over a career change. I graduated 8 years ago. I don't want to do this anymore. Now I want to do something else and get more debt. It's for family. And at 38, you don't have a lot of time to decide if you want that second baby.
Correct.
So I wouldn't feel guilty about it.
No, I wouldn't feel guilty, but I also do think that there is a financial
Trade-off.
decision about, am I really committed to the new career? Because I can tell you now, you could understand if somebody in a household got a little bit annoyed if you went, I don't like my job, I'm going to go and spend the next 4 years at uni, possibly earn less during that time. So we've got two financial implications. We've got lower earnings over the time that we're studying and we come out with a $50,000 debt. And then you do all of that and go, didn't really like that one either.
Which for the eternal student, and they're out there, I don't like this, I'll study again. I don't like this, I'll study again. 3, 4, 5 different changes without really making a career out of any of them. Yeah, your partner probably is going to be a little bit unhappy that you're not contributing and you're the eternal student.
So what's the earnings capacity from the new job? Is it something you really love to do? Because I'm a big believer that money only ever
flows.
Well, it's there to give you the things that are important. You're not going to win an award for dying with the most money. So it's there to do the things that are important to you, but you do have to make that trade-off of it comes at a cost. So that might mean in the meantime there's 4 years where we can't do holidays and we can't do this and we can't do that because my income is going down and I am accumulating a $50,000 debt.
Perhaps, though, if you are baby number 2, that's a good time to study, perhaps, if you've got a good baby.
I was going to say.
It can be really also the worst time ever
Correct.
to study if you have an unwell or colicky baby. So
I know plenty of my clients that have had to defer study when they've got a newborn. You're sleep deprived. It's hard enough just holding everything together
You're on tap.
as it is without actually trying to do
study as well when your brain's not working.
Yeah. And it might only be a 6-month break, but
it's a very individual decision and something that, 128 comments later, it's
128 comments.
Yeah. How do you decide that for another person? It's you you can't make those calls. I mean, I understand that you want a bit, when you're talking about guilt, it's like, should I be guilty? You want a bit of validation.
Yeah.
And guilt to me, I went through all the mummy guilt. If I was with my clients, I should have been with my kids. If I was with my kids, I should have been building my business. And it's such a wasted emotion.
Yep.
And I think learning to be present and accepting whatever the circumstances are that you've made. And look, when I'm with my kids now, I'm with my kids. If I'm with my grandbaby, I'm even more present.
I was going to say, but your kids also work with you, so then
but then if I'm with my clients, it's just about being present to wherever you are instead of wishing you were somewhere else, because you wish your whole life away otherwise and miss all the good bits. Because
mummy guilt's a big thing, isn't it?
It's
like
awful.
Nobody else is judging you the way that we are, like the way that we're judging ourselves.
Yeah. Nobody says, to a new Prime Minister, you've got a new baby at home, what are you doing out and about? Another person said, I'm halfway through a degree and I've decided I want to start another. So, our lives do chop and change. So there's nothing that's set in stone. And
Correct.
We have to do what's right for us without hurting others. So,
yes. Yeah. So I would say the other side of it is there a way that you can pay for some of it up front? Like back to this original question, if inflation stays high for a while and you're coming out with a $50,000 debt and it's going up by 7% every year, not that it will, because inflation can't stay this high for too long. But let's say that it did. In 10 years' time, now you've got a $100,000 debt. So in 20 years' time, you have a $200,000 debt.
Okay.
So now that we've got help debt kind of sorted for today, what's happening around the world in finance that you think people should know about?
Well, I did get a phone call this week from Power 100 in Townsville. So they asked me to explain what's been going on with the shake-up at the RBA. So Governor Phil Lowe hasn't been terribly popular.
I'm sorry for Phil Lowe.
Well, he did come out in 2020 and go, that's it, the rates are on hold for the next 3 years, all is going to be well. And, of course, we know they've been put up 10 times since then.
Correct. So we got that wrong.
He did.
Did every other economist in the world, actually.
I think most people are going, look, he's just another politician. It's just a broken promise, and we hate that.
Yes.
And especially because it's impacting our hip pocket.
Correct.
But there's a very real reason that the Reserve Bank of Australia is in place, and one of those reasons, or the main reason, is to keep inflation under control and in their target rate of 2 to 3%.
Yeah.
It's currently nearly 7.8%. So like the rest of the world.
Going up by 7.1.
So we are in line with the rest of the world, and one of the very few ways that the RBA has in its toolkit to control that is to increase interest rates.
Yep. So that people don't spend as much. The only problem is people are still
spending. So stop spending and we won't have to keep putting the interest rates up.
Well,
there we go.
That's actually what he said in one of his last press conferences.
I think it was. Stop spending.
I could stop doing this if you could just stop spending. Let inflation come back to a normal 2 to 3% and we don't have to put up rates.
But look, he did make the point that, look, it's not just him. There is 9 people currently on the board. Yep. But I think the big news was about the shake-up on the board.
Yes.
So they're going to be getting many more, I think 5 external people. Yep. So financial experts to come in on the board to help make those decisions.
And separation of duties along the way.
Exactly. So they're going to have 2 boards, which brings us into line with countries like the UK and Canada, where the governance board is separate. And he won't be the governor of both.
No.
So
sit on it, though.
he will. He'll be part of it, but not running it, which makes perfect sense. The governance of the RBA is completely separate to the guy who makes the interest rate decisions.
Well, it probably should be.
Well, it will be going forward if the recommendations are acted on. So not a bad thing.
No, I see that as all positive news.
So
I think we had a couple of interest rates and increases in 2009, 2010, and then they got reversed really quickly. So we've basically had 15 years of decreasing interest rates, easier money. Eventually that means inflation goes up.
Well, I remember a 10% interest rate, so people squawking and carrying on now that it's not even 4. It's a bit of a giggle, isn't it? I remember my father having to deal with 18. I never had to deal with 18% interest rates.
I looked it in at 16, thought I was a genius because it went to 18. And then by the time my fix came off, it was back at 12.
So not as big a genius as you thought.
Probably not such a genius. But it's interesting though. So we do say, it's easy anyway to say, oh God, they should have been me when I had 18%. I had no idea what that was like. But
was your home loan about $100,000 back then?
The home loan was much less. Probably wasn't. It probably was actually 100,000. But when it went from 12% to 18%, it essentially went up by 50%. So 12, 50% of that is 6. Add 6 on your 12, you get your 18. At the moment, people are staring down the barrel of, I'm going from 2 to 6. So we're not talking about a 50% increase. We are talking about a 300% increase.
Yeah.
So in terms of actual money out of your back pocket, this is actually a much bigger impact than that 12 to 18.
Well, interestingly, I did a recording with a property expert yesterday who worked out that back when things were tough and at those higher interest rates, it was costing us 42% of our income to pay our mortgages.
Yep.
We are actually back at that same amount right now.
Correct.
Because wages have gone up. What we didn't take into account was that your petrol's gone through the roof, your groceries have gone through the roof. But the cost of actually paying off your mortgage is the same as it was back then as a percentage of income.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting point because it doesn't feel like it. It feels like it's more painful, and that's because everything else has gone up so much.
That's right. Well, actually, when you have a look at not just people with mortgages, but the entire population, so percentage of income to debt, we're now at an all-time high.
Yeah.
But it's
And the
just we've had
savings.
such low interest rates.
Well, you could borrow $1 million.
Related to debt or debt repayments to income.
$1 million costing you 20 grand a year. Anyone could get that. Walk in the park.
Well,
now all of a sudden,
easier than renting. Like,
now all of a sudden,
rent for $20,000 a year.
Yeah, all of a sudden, you're paying $60,000 in interest plus principal.
Yep.
Ouch.
Yep.
So that debt's not so cheap no more.
We stress tested people on 6%, and now it's at 6%. So even now you're starting to think, I wish I stress tested it at 8. Although I do suspect that as all these fixed rates come off, we will see that slowing of inflation. Do you know there's still 800,000 fixed loans to come off between now and the end of the year?
That's why they're calling it the cliff.
Yes. So all of those people that are currently still on 2%.
Good for them.
Coming up to 6.
Ouch.
Good for them though, but you do think...
That's a big jump for them too.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And maybe now is a good time to start looking at, what do I do? Is it
affordable? Yeah.
Not when it actually happens.
No, now's the perfect time.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a clue how to do that, please get help.
Yes.
Your local mortgage broker even can give you a hand with that, let alone seeking a financial advisor or somebody else.
So is there anything that gets on your goat this week?
Oh, lots of things get on my goat. Should I start with my kids? No, I won't do that.
No,
I won't do that.
Let's not go. Can I give you one that gets on my goat?
Yes, please do. Please do.
So I have a love-hate relationship with ChatGPT.
Okay, so we're going down the AI route today.
We're going down the AI route.
What do you love about it?
I love that it can create efficiencies because I'm an efficiency.
So what do you
nerd.
use it for?
Not very much.
Okay. So why do you hate it?
Because of the disinformation, which is the reason that I hate unqualified people also giving advice.
So where does the information in ChatGPT go up to and stop?
So it stops in September of 2021.
Okay, so we're talking 18 months or more down the track.
Correct. So there's a couple of issues that I have with it. One, it draws its information from the internet.
Which, if it's on the internet, it must be real, so that's okay.
Correct. We both know that is a load of bollocks. So therein lies our first problem.
Right.
Is that there is plenty of disinformation in the internet.
Indeed.
So that's my first problem. So to give an example of this, I asked ChatGPT, and I even paid for ChatGPT.
Did you go premium?
I went premium.
Look at you.
Because I thought, what if it's just the free version that's wrong?
Okay. Is the paid version wrong?
It is.
No.
Yes.
No wonder it gets your goat. How much did you pay for this wrong
I
information?
don't know. Enough to go. At least now I'm sure that it's incorrect.
Okay, that's
So
a problem.
The question I asked it was, and this was all spurred on because I saw a financial planner on LinkedIn say it's not that long until ChatGPT can write a full piece of advice for a client. And I went, hang on a sec. That's as scary as everything to me because it can't take what's important to a client into consideration.
Know what the current interest rates or inflation rates are.
And B, it could actually just be wrong. So I said to ChatGPT, tell me, can I put money into super at the age of 70? And it told me, no, not unless you meet a work test.
Okay,
And this is outdated information.
indeed.
In fact, a lot of the work we're doing with clients at the moment is work that 2 or 3 years ago we couldn't do because, you're right, 3 years ago you had to meet a work test to put in super if you're over the age of 65.
Oh, well, I've got a 71-year-old getting an inheritance at the moment. Guess where they would be best off putting it? Part of it.
Absolutely. So if you ask ChatGPT the question, it still tells you you can't do it without going and meeting the work test. Whereas in reality, you can do it. So it concerns me because our world changes all the time. So
Which is
super
why we
rules
have to do
change.
40 hours minimum ongoing education to stay up to date with this.
Yep. The super rules change. The Centrelink rules change all the time. So if I ask Centrelink about, ChatGPT about how much could you work before your Centrelink
Is impacted. You're getting 2021 information.
Well, I'm even getting 2020. Even if I got 2022 information, it would be wrong because there's recent changes that have come through on that. So that would be wrong. Inflation would be wrong. How
Your
much
HEX
does
debt,
your HEX debt goes up
CPI as well.
would be wrong.
Yeah.
So,
I actually asked it that myself. I said to ChatGPT, can you do me a blog article on the impact of how HEX debt works? And it gave me a lovely little table that went up to 2021 on what the rates were. So I told it, the 2023 rates are 7.1%. Can you please rewrite the article?
did it write back and go, holy shit, didn't it?
It went certainly and rewrote the article.
So that's the thing. That relied on
Me
your
telling
knowledge
it.
to ask it to rewrite with the correct information. If somebody thinks, like, I can't afford a planner or I don't know, I'm going to go and ask ChatGPT, it is actually worse than Google.
Oh, is that a thing?
Well,
Can that be true?
Because not only is it drawing information from Google, which might be wrong in the first place, but it's worse because it's 2 years old.
Yeah. Well, no wonder that gets you goat, Felicity.
Now that we've sorted the help debt, we've made sure that everybody knows that they can't actually rely on ChatGPT as an answer.
And that the shake-up of the RBA board isn't a bad thing.
I don't know how anybody thought it was, but anyway, let's get to the important stuff of what are we drinking next week. So, don't tell us what we're drinking.
What are the
Tell us what we
ingredients?
need so that people can go out and get that and join us next week.
All right, well, we are children of the 70s who got our drinking shoes in the 80s.
Ooh.
So I'm thinking something green.
Bit of Midori.
Bit of Midori.
Yeah.
The Midori slipper.
Nice.
Yep.
We have no idea what's in it.
We'll make sure we do by next week.
But we'll get that. In the meantime, we know you need Midori, so go and get that, and we'll see you next week.
Chat then. Hi, I am Amanda and thank you so much for tuning in to an episode of Two Drunk Planners. We've loved having you join us, and if you liked being there, please remember to like and subscribe.
Don't forget though, no substitute for good advice. What we've talked about today doesn't take into account your situation at all. If you do want advice, check us out on our website, twodrunkplanners.com.au, or if you're looking for an advisor, hop onto the FAAA site and find an advisor there.
And if you've got any questions you'd like to throw at us, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to unpack them on the couch as well.
Until then, catch you next time.
Bye.